Starting a new week, which means we got a new Jonathan Kuminga update to discuss on today's edition of Warriors Today by Chat Sports. Trust me, there is some new information and things to speculate on, so stick around. Plus, are the Warriors going to be back in the Nikola Vucevic business, which we all know that they were in and around the trade deadline? Obviously, nothing ended up happening, and it looks like his time in Chicago could be coming to an end. We'll get into all that in just a moment, but first, make sure you go down below and hit that thumbs up icon. I was thinking of that as the offseason drags on, we're getting further and further away from this being the case, the Warriors being NBA champions back in 2022. I miss the 2022 Golden State Warriors. If you do too, go down below, hit that thumbs up icon, and like today's video. All right, let's get into it, man. And Anthony Slater dropped a little bit of a bombshell article late last week detailing the latest on Kaminga and where the both sides are at this point. And we had heard that through the grapevine that there was never a contract number offered to Kaminga in free agency, and that is true. There was never a real number discussed in the lead up to free agency. Obviously, there have been some offers made from Golden State's side at this point. We know Kaminga has not accepted any because there's no resolution at this point. But I do believe that there were contract numbers discussed before this beginning of last season when Kaminga was eligible to be extended. I find it very hard to believe that Golden State did not offer something in the realm of $25 to $30 million a year on that deal. So, yes, there was never any contract numbers discussed recently, but back when the extension was eligible, yeah, they definitely discussed some numbers. Now, Golden State has made efforts in recent days, late last week, to kind of get closer and closer to this being wrapped up. They've wanted to work with Kaminga, with Aaron Turner, and they presented an offer last week, but Kaminga and Turner, they said that that's not really an offer that we're looking for at this point. He really has not budged on anything so far. Kaminga, quote from Slater here, says that he hasn't found anything that they've presented appealing. And honestly, from my speculation right now, that kind of feels like that they're offering somewhere in the realm of $20 million flat annually, and it doesn't look like Kaminga's willing to accept that at this point on like a 2+1, like some sort of 3-year deal. Now, Kaminga and his reps, like we know, the real reason for this is like they're focused on Kaminga finding the new role. They're focused on him being a focal point in somebody's offense, and that's not going to be with the Golden State Warriors. So at this point in time, Kaminga and his representation are steady focused and only focused on finding a sign and trade partner. It doesn't look like they're really trying to get a deal done with Golden State for him to come back, at least on paper, for long term. And as far as those trade partners potential go, there's really only been 2 teams that have really even kind of kicked the tires and like really got things moving, at least fractionally, on the Kaminga front, and that's the Sacramento Kings and the Phoenix Suns, but nothing is close. Slater said that they're the most tangible bites, but that doesn't really mean that anything is at the forefront or on the doorstep of happening as it stands right now. Let's detail these 2 trade partners real quick and really dive into why they haven't gone down yet. Well, from the Kings' standpoint, it's very odd because we know that the Kings did offer up a trade package for Jonathan Kuminga that we'll detail in just a moment, but as of right now, one of the 2 players that would be in that deal is not eligible to be traded until the middle of September. So the only player that could really get something going between Sacramento and Golden State is Malik Monk. And I'm not so sure if it's Sacramento that's not trying to move him or Golden State that just doesn't want him. But regardless, it doesn't seem like Malik Monk is going to be a part of any Kuminga trade. So it kind of feels like it takes the Kings off of the table unless Golden State goes and accepts their initial offer. The Suns, though, they're probably a little bit more, I would say, hungry to go out there and acquire Kaminga, but they really don't have the positive assets necessary to make it worthwhile for Golden State. Like Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, or like a Royce O'Neal and Nick Richards type of package. I think that's really uninspiring, especially when you consider like the Warriors already called the Kings' offer a buy low attempt. And that offer included Devin Carter, who was picked in the lottery last season, along with Dario Saric, and he's the player that was traded from Denver to Sacramento in the Valanciunas deal, I believe, and then he's trade ineligible all the way up until September 13th. So this trade can't even technically go down at this point, so maybe that's what's harboring any Kings and Warriors deal from happening. Devin Carter, though, like that fits the bill a little bit of what Golden State wants. Young player, first-round pick last year, but Kings didn't offer an future first-round pick in this trade idea, which that's what Golden State has kind of been steadfast in wanting this entire process. And that's why we're playing this world's biggest game of hardball right now, where neither side will budge from their position, really, it seems, at all to this point. That's going to hurt them both sides, from my point of view, heading into this season, whether it just be the lack of continuity, the lack of chemistry. Kaminga being in an awkward situation again, potentially. Like, we know he wants to be a star. We know he wants $25 million a year for multiple seasons. And Golden State is not willing to give him either one of those things, quite frankly, at this point. Then on the flip side, like, the Warriors, like, are devaluing Kaminga, and then they want an absolute haul for him. So they're not blameless in this situation whatsoever. They want a young player and a first-round pick, and that's just not happening as the Kaminga market looks right now. So both sides are going to have to meet in the middle somewhere, but it just doesn't look like that's happening anytime soon. Now, there is a doomsday scenario for Jonathan Kuminga, something that I do not want to explore whatsoever, but it's not just Warriors being able to match an offer sheet. It's not just them re-signing him outright. It's not just a sign-and-trade possibility. No, there's another avenue Kuminga could go down here, and that's accepting the $8 million qualifying offer, which would make him an unrestricted free agent in the summer of 2026, really giving him the opportunity to have control over his future over the next couple of seasons. With restricted free agency, it's kind of in the vocabulary there. Restricted, you don't really have full control of what you want to do, but he's got until October 1st to accept this qualifying offer, which the Warriors also cannot rescind at this point. So that really kind of puts the pressure on them a little bit and gives a little bit more leverage to Kuminga. An anonymous NBA executive told this to Fred Katz about the Kaminga situation and the qualifying offer. And he says, if he takes the qualifying offer, the Warriors are effed from a team building standpoint, because they need to get him on a deal where they can trade him, and that's the key for them. This is a problem. This is a genuine problem, because Anthony Slater says that Kaminga and his camp are considering signing the qualifying offer, going on the one-year prove-it deal, and going out and entering unrestricted free agency next summer when a whole heck of a lot more teams have cap space. The issue with signing the qualifying offer isn't even the fact that they're not going to get a full $20 million or $20+ million back in incoming trade value if they were to deal Kaminga. No, they couldn't do it at all. A qualifying offer, signing it and being on that one-year deal, provides you a no-trade clause. So Kaminga will just have this entire season to play out, or I guess not play out as much as he wants to in Golden State, then enter unrestricted free agency as a 23-year-old next summer and see what kind of market he gets. That's a huge risk, and the history behind guys doing this is not fruitful. The contract that they would get after the qualifying offer season is really brutal. More often than not, these guys are playing on the minimum. I'm not saying that Kaminga would do that. He's still got a lot of potential, 23 years old. Like, I'm not so sure that even no matter what he does this season, he'd be playing for the minimum next year, but it won't likely be for the $25 million plus that he's asking for this time around. Look, I stand by that my point in that I think a trade needs to get done before the start of the NBA season. Whether or not you get equal value back in your pursuit, it really doesn't matter to me at this point. It is addition by subtraction. I'm sorry. Like, I understand that Kaminga has positives to his game, but in the context of the Golden State Warriors, this would be addition by subtraction. And when you're trying to make Jonathan Kuminga play like a role player and then not trade him for guys who are good role players, that really just doesn't make much sense to me that they're, holding out for some wild, star or at least potential star level player when they don't believe that Jonathan Kuminga is one. So like that's why this is just a weird game of hardball, and eventually, sooner rather than later, I hope very soon in the next 2 weeks, these two sides will meet in the middle, and we'll see what we can get done, whether it be a sign and trade or a re-sign. And the reason I say in the next 2 weeks is because Kuminga's going to be away 2 weeks from now. Shout out to my guy, GSW JK. He said this on Twitter, and I thought it was very interesting. He said an interesting wrinkle with the Kaminga stuff is that he is set to represent the Democratic Republic of the Congo at AfroBasket. The competition begins on August 12th. Presumably, he'd like to have his financial future sorted before participating in those games because, well, what if he gets hurt in those games and he has no contract this season? Then he's cooked. And then the Warriors are cooked. So I presume that we will have a Jonathan Kuminga resolution before August 12th, and we'll see what that all entails. With that being said, I have to ask you this question. What would you do with Kuminga at this point? It seems like he's kind of holding Golden State hostage as their moves have yet to be made this offseason. T for trade, R for re-sign. You got to let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. Okay, my biggest question, and obviously I just told you guys I would trade him, but my biggest question for this whole situation is kind of what I was just alluding to. Will Kuminga kind of flip the script here and take the leverage back in these negotiations and make Golden State play more money pay him more money by threatening to accept the qualifying offer taking away all ideas of them trading him this incoming season, and then them losing him for nothing in the summer of 2026. Like now, it seems like Kaminga's camp has a little bit more of the leverage than we initially realized, and I believe that to be the case more so because Golden State has yet to make a free agency move this offseason. Due to the financial constraints that they have to get the Kaminga stuff done before they make their external signings. Now, we do know that they have a couple of quote-unquote verbal agreements, per my guy Siegel. He said that people around the Summer League streets thought that these two guys, Al Horford and D'Anthony Melton, are pretty much signed, sealed, delivered without the sign coming to Golden State next season. And I also heard some reports that the Golden State Warriors are also interested in Malcolm Brogdon, Seth Curry, so some other names for the back end of that rotation that will be playing on the vet minimum deals. But it looks like Al Horford will get the taxpayer mid-level, D'Anthony Melton coming on a vet min, and these two deals will be kind of wrapped up once the Kaminga stuff comes, but who knows when that's all going to get sorted at this point. We'll talk about another player that Golden State could eventually target in the front court in just a moment, but get hooked up with this awesome Warriors playoff tee. Win for the Bay. They did enough winning for the Bay for me this year. They didn't end up winning the title, but I'd say this is a pretty successful season for Golden State, especially after trading for Jimmy. So we'll commemorate it with this awesome playoff tee. I think it's pretty fresh. I like collecting these things too. And this is on a major, major sale. It's like literally half off with our friends over at Fanatics. Get it at this link right here. chatsports.com/win4bay. That's chatsports.com/win4bay. But you don't have to type it all out. Don't worry. I put that link in the comment section and description of today's video. So go down below, click that link, and go get yourself a Warriors playoff tee today. Alrighty, Mark Stein coming in, and he said this back in February, that the Warriors made another run at Chicago's Nikola Vucevic on NBA trade deadline day, but talks fizzled as the teams could not agree on a trade construction. And, Golden State is yet to really show much interest in a Vucevic trade this offseason, so who knows if they'd be interested in making any sort of deal at this point, but it doesn't look like anybody across the league is looking at making a trade for Vucevic at this point with $20 million and 1 year left on his deal. Jake Fisher saying this. He said, there hasn't been much of a market for Nikola Vucevic all along, as Chicago, I feel like, has been trying to trade him for the better part of a year, dating back to last trade deadline. I think this juncture, we're probably more likely to see a Nikola Vucevic buyout midseason than we are to see a trade. Okay, so from what we're gathering there, yes, we're probably more likely to see a midseason buyout than right now. I was talking to my good friend Patrick Seaman, who hosts the Bulls Report here at Chat Sports, and he was talking about how the ownership group in Chicago, that there's zero chance that they would waive him before the start of this season. Like, they don't really operate with sunken costs. They get what they pay for up there. They're a very cheap organization, and cutting players with $20 million on their contract isn't typically the mantra that they live by. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. But we did hear from a Yahoo Sports source as well that the Bulls are expected to release Nikola Vucevic if a trade cannot be finalized. So how deep down the line does that go? And is Golden State a viable destination? Well, I'll tell you that I would bring him in, but it wouldn't be for too much of a big-time contract. And don't worry, Alper, you can just put this full screen. I would bring Vucevic in on a 1 year minimum contract because he would be making pretty much the full $20 million that he would have from Chicago. And then he comes to Golden State, really doesn't have much pressure. And I want to be in a situation, honestly, where we don't have to lean on Al Horford for 35 minutes a game, where we don't have to lean on Quentin Post, second-year player with still a lot to work on for 35 minutes a game. Like, I would be fine with having a third center platooned in there in Nikola Vucevic, a guy who has elite touch around the rim, really solid playmaker, elite post game, can stretch the floor. Yes, he does nothing on defense, but who gives a shit if he's cost $2 million? Like, I would bring him in, absolutely. No questions asked if it's on the minimum deal and he ends up getting bought out by the Bulls. That being said, if he is bought out, should the Warriors sign Vucevic? I'm trying to hear from you now at this point. Yes or no? You let me know down in the comments section what you think about bringing in Vucevic to Golden State. And make sure you are subscribed to the channel. That will do it for today's edition of Warriors Today. If you noticed something different about me, let me know down in the comments section if you did. We'll see you guys all in the next one. And as always, let's go Dubs.